Hi. Oh, right, welcome back. So I just learned that if you shoot underwater, it also fucks up the bow's XP handlers. Because the bow doesn't hit me. I'll do it without Desperagon, it's supposed to fuck it up, but if you shoot an arrow underwater, it just kind of floats. This doesn't hit anything, it doesn't trigger that listeners I have. But also, 1.6 is out. I hope you got it. Wait, what? Even if you were swimming? Huh? Eh. Yeah, so there was a very specific edge case bug when I was riding the bow. Involving breaking the XP handler. And so to work around that, I have it so that if you drop a weapon, it just kills all the XP handlers. Resolved that issue. Okay, what the fuck? I'm shooting right into it and it's not... Eh. There's boxes in this game. I also understand that, because I know when I get into coding this, I barely play the game other than to test. If you've read the mod page, you already know what the bug with XP handlers is, though, for the bow. But, yeah, it's because of how I had to do it. Because I'm not sure if the whole get projectile source function actually works for arrows. So, just assume you haven't even looked at the page, but how I wanted to do things was to set up a listener for whenever you shoot an arrow at something. Or basically whenever an arrow impacts a thing, and... I think they might disallow that for security reasons, because that sounds like code injection, which is a way of hacking. Well, maybe if you have like a run file thing, and that file is code, maybe that could work. Instead of a read file, like a run batch file may work. Oh, I think my enchantment's out. Yoink. Okay, where was I? Right, with how I handle the bow XP handler. So the normal XP handler is just anytime you equip to Spheragon, I set up an event handler in the on-equip block. That just listens for any time you hit anything with this. Anytime you hit a thing, a handler fires. And that'll give you XP. However, a little convenient quirk of the handler is that it actually only fires on living NPCs, so if I hit the terrain, it doesn't fire. So the handler literally just adds XP, whether you're doing a normal attack or a power attack. Oh. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how... Sounds like something a server would do. That is how I handle the handler for that melee weapon. Thing is with bows is you don't actually hit anything with a bow. So I can't do the same thing. Instead, with the bow, because you don't hit things with the bow, you hit things with arrows. I have to make a listener for the arrow, and then like check if you fired that from Referral. And initially what I tried to do was make an event handler that listened for arrow impacts, and then get the source of the arrow, like who fired it, and then check if they have Referral equipped. That didn't work, because apparently getting the source of a projectile from within an event handler crashes the event handler. And I'm also, because of that, I don't think I can do one where I can make an event handler per arrow you fire. Actually, I tried that. That also crashes event handlers, so I can't do the nice and neat way of just making a listener for each individual arrow you fire. So what I had to do instead was I have... Anytime you equip Referral, that sets up an on-release event handler. So right now there's a listener that's looking out for any time I fire an arrow. Each time I fire an arrow, it checks my equipped ammo, and then creates a listener for not that arrow, but that type of arrow, and whether it hits anything. Yeah, I've had brief forays into server programming, and the hardest part is the network code and not the actual server stuff, because you can just treat server client like you would if you had two different programs communicating with each other. You're just going to be waiting on data from other stuff. Maybe you want to keep running without waiting for a return, but we'll see how it goes. The hard part is the networking, because you have no idea how shitty American infrastructure is. Like, how many packets are lost even for just fucking text chat? You have to send something like at least 5 times for it to get across. It is... that's the real nightmare. Anywho. So, once you fire this bow, it will create the list, set up an event handler that's listening for the arrow type. In this case, it'll be listening for Perfect Madness arrows. And as soon as a Perfect Madness arrow hits something, the event handler fires. And here's the quirk. Unlike with melee, where the handler only fires if I hit a living NPC, the arrow handler actually fires anytime I hit anything, including the ground. So I have to put a check in there to make sure it's a living NPC. Yeah, I personally don't want to touch network programming. I mean, I wouldn't be adverse to learning it, but right now I just don't want to deal with it. I don't have to. So, this works. We have a listener on the bow that listens for when you fire an arrow, which then makes another listener for the type of arrow that impacts anything. And then, so it can handle multiple arrows, I have it, because if you make a listener every time you fire the bow, then you'll have a bunch of listeners out there, all firing off at the same time whenever that arrow hits the thing. Which is both a memory leak and also madness on the XP. Because each handler is going to add 3 XP every time, so if you have 5 handlers, you're getting 15 XP per shot. So we have to remove the handlers, but of course if you remove one handler and then you have the instance of having 2 arrows airborne at the same time, like, it's hard to get 2 arrows airborne simultaneously in Oblivion, but it still is possible. If you do that in removing your handlers, well, OBSE doesn't actually let you remove just one handler. It's either you remove all handlers or you don't. Of a specific type anyways. Where the hell am I even going? Alright, the Isles. As well as through Nibbin. So the way that would work is if you fire 2 arrows, and they're both airborne, then the first arrow is going to impact and give you double XP. And then it's going to remove all the handlers, so the second arrow gets nothing. So what I have instead put on the on-release event handler is I made a global, so that way, because there's no real way to transfer data between event handlers. So I can't, like, pass a value into the event handler or anything. I have to use globals to share stuff. That global keeps track of arrows up. I think it really is just called arrows up. Oh, that's not... Was it singular? No? Okay. Unless I misspelled this Farragon. No, I didn't. Oh, I'm not doing show. There we go. Wow, that's a lot. Basically, I have that global to keep track of how many arrows you fired. So that way, you only have one event handler up at any given time. So that way we don't get the double XP luck, don't get the triple XP luck, we don't get the issue where you have 2 arrows up, the first one gets double and the second one gets 0. They both get 1 times XP. So what should happen is every time you fire, you get a +1 to the global, and every time the handler goes off, you get a -1. And then when it's at 0, the arrow listener will kill itself, and then the release listener will also be allowed to make another arrow listener. So the 2 edge cases with that is if another enemy shooting the same arrow type as you are, like if I'm using Dwarven arrows, there are bandits that also use Dwarven arrows. So the script can only listen for Dwarven arrows, and it can't actually tell who fired it, because, as I said before, that crashes the script. So it will treat whatever arrow impacts first as yours, and that's that. That's the first edge case, which there isn't much I can do about unless I can actually get projectile source to really work in an event handler type of way. I have a feeling it only works for magic projectiles and not arrows, judging by the fact that it seems to crash everything. Well, not everything, it just crashes the event handler. However, the second age... I see 3 asterisks. Okay. So it's really nice to have a Discord link now. I mean, I made sure it's the top link right in the description underneath, but chat commands are good too. Right, and then the second thing would be if you shoot an arrow, and then you swap arrows and then you shoot again and they're both airborne, that fucks up the handler because the global increments every time you shoot the bow, but the handler's only listening for the first type and it only decrement for the first type, so you'll always have that one in there, the global. And that's why I let you kill the listener on drop. And I just dropped it where I really shouldn't have. Wait, that's a slaughterfish. Alright. Either it's below me, I'm gonna have to load save, or I don't know. Bows float. You know what? We'll make this really easy. TCG. That I should be able to see the collision box for things like items. That might be it. That's a slaughterfish. There it is. Yeah, that's why I have that, because I don't really have a solid way to remove that, and I have no idea why the arrow count was at... I still have a... Nah, it's too fast for me to see. Oh, I haven't really had chicken nuggets in forever. Yeah, TCG doesn't always remove the stuff. Well. Get Technicolor underwater. Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna take a look at that code now. Of course, OBS is covering up the desktop shortcut again. Alright, yeah. Actually, I'll just... Oh, that's also a desktop shortcut. Whoops, I'm gonna have to minimize OBS then for a bit. Actually, I shouldn't launch that while Oblivion's open. That could actually fuck up Oblivion. Alright. Alright, now OBS is back up. Okay, it's set up. So where was it? So on bow hit. And on arrow hit. This is how I handle the bow stuff. So every time you shoot a bow, it'll check the global, then it will check your ammo type, and then it will set the event handler for that ammo type. As well as, regardless of whether it's set or not, it's also going to set arrows up to +1. And then here we have, because this fires anytime you hit anything with the arrow, whether it be a corpse, a wall, a floor, a chair, a goose, it will always fire. So I need to actually check that it's both an NPC and it's alive. And then do the normal XP handler stuff. And then I have to decrement the global and then check if it's 0. And then if it is 0, then we just remove ourselves. And this I know actually works. Or at least this line here works. This doesn't like crash it or anything. Even though we're technically killing ourselves from within ourselves. That's how it works, but why the hell I had a +48 there when I think I only fired like 17 arrows is just... That's gonna be weird. It probably had to do with underwater, didn't it? Where was my last save? Right outside Marindon. So I didn't lose too much time. Yeah, so you can't use standard code editors to actually look at the stuff in ESP. That's why I copied everything into TXT files. That also means you lose all the highlighting. So, And then here's the script attached to the bow, which is just on equip. We set the equip flag to 0. We get rid of the on bow hit, but not the on arrow hit. So that way, any arrows that are still airborne when you swap still count. We then check it's broken. And then on equip, we set the bow handler for basically any time the player themselves shoots an arrow. And on drop, we have set the equip to 0, set the arrows up to 0, and kill all the handlers from everything, just in case any of them are up for any reason. I really need to, like... Okay, so that's properly 0. I'm going to be keeping track of this. Because I had 30 arrows, we were down to 100 by the time I checked, but arrows up was at 48. That was just... Alright, so I've shot that. So it's 1. Should have impacted, and it's still 1. Alright, so that's in the ground. Oh, it's not properly decrementing, is it? If they shoot an arrow at themselves, the listener... get it. Is the other one also arrows up? That's on bow hit. So if they shoot an arrow at themselves, this really looks at the target and the weapon. So you get hit by an arrow, it doesn't care who this is. And this only cares about who fired. So this is only looking for the player. This is only looking for the arrow. It doesn't care who gets hit. So if a player shoots an arrow at themselves, that technically counts. They technically get XP for that because they did hit a thing with an arrow that they themselves fired. So now I know that either this, for some reason, now isn't firing on ground hit, or it's... either this line isn't working, or this whole thing isn't firing if we hit the ground. Because it used to hit fire when you hit the ground, and it seems like now it doesn't. Can only say Bethesda to that. How if I shoot a rock? Actually, I do need to... Alright, 2. And it'll show again. Yeah, it's 2. So it counts if I hit a rock. Because if I shoot it's midair, we're at 3. It's the rock. We're down to 2. That's what I'm saying, it triggers on walls. But apparently, if I shoot the ground, it doesn't trigger. Anywho, because it triggers on things like rocks, that's why I have to check if it's a living NPC. Alright, so that should be, yeah, still 3. Now I have to wonder how it works underwater. 5? Why'd that count? Okay, I'm not sure where the 4 came from. Maybe I missed a shot and it hit the ground. I'm glad you like them. So I guess 1.6 isn't the final update, because I've got this bug to work out. Which I may not have a solution for, because if I could make it so that I actually like create listeners for specifically every arrow, then that would be fine. I'd completely sidetrack the whole what I described earlier with the whole multiplier on XP gain per shot, but that only applying to the first shot type of deal. So that would solve that. Also solve this issue, apparently. Because it wouldn't matter if you fire multiple arrow types, because you get a listener per each arrow type. Or actually not just per each arrow type, per each arrow. But the last time I tried to use get projectile source inside here or here, it crashed those scripts. And it was the quiet crash where I had to do print C's inside just to tell if it actually was crashing. Floating gauntlet? Oh, you mean... Yeah, I can see inside my arm. That's because of the FOV. So that's how it like normally looks. And it's perfectly fine. Unlike Comcast packet loss, that is not fine. However, I like to have my FOV at 110. And first person wasn't designed for that. There it is. There's the arrow. Yeah, that's a pretty odd bug to finally notice. Actually, I wonder what if I made a listener for a specific arrow. Would that actually... I wonder what would happen when the arrow gets picked up. Or just disappears for any reason. I don't think I can attach scripts to objects, though. Here's an object window. So, how I do things is these are the items that we have. Let's do some crashing is why we don't have just one. But yeah, they're actually... I don't know if there's any... I don't think there are any functions that allow me to attach scripts to objects, but that's how I do stuff. I have to attach these scripts to the objects in the engine. Which is also another reason why I can't let you enchant it, because when it clones an item, it does not clone the script attached to it. So you wouldn't even get the handler set, which is just, eh. I should still have OBS's documentation up, yeah. So if I scan this for script, because if anything will let me attach scripts, it would always be this. Apparently there's 316 references. Oh, that's not a standard CS thing? Well, that's nice. Yeah, this is what lets me run the ini file. Without this, I wouldn't be able to do it. Oh yeah, oh boy. So, part of this is me just learning from my own experience in college, of being sure to comment things. But the other part is me looking at other people's code in Oblivion, because in order to, because other people have done this stuff, and there aren't really any tutorials for coding. You just have to, you have these 2 pages to work with, and that's all your resources for all of Oblivion's coding. It's just all the functions you can use, and that's it. So I just have to look at other people's mods for how they did stuff if I want to know how to do it for myself. And thanks to that, I saw someone use these lines, and they look really nice, so I copied that. And then this header here is a mixture of what I learned in college and something that spooked me about another mod that I saw. So this has to do with... where was it? On staff hit. Yeah, like there's a lot of engine limitations and there's just jack shit for you to go on. That's also why I like included all these scripts in text files and just said use it however you want as long as it's not paid. So that way hopefully people can use my code as an example to look at. But this here is a magic script. So if I bring up the object viewer, object window again, see here's the staff. This has the object S script attached to it. Which actually doesn't set any handlers. There's no handler here, no handler here. It still has to kill everything though on drop. And that is because for the packet has to be green. Or I keep speaking on. So, like with the bow, you don't actually hit anything with the staff. You hit things with the enchantment. But actually have a separate enchantment for the staff. And here, as you can see, another neat thing, if you wanted to see about this is the enchantment that I have. So, this whole enchantment here is actually this. Completely empty. Entirely via scripts, I add everything to this on runtime. Which is really neat. I think it's just really cool. Like how I can't append scripts to objects at runtime, I also can't append scripts to effects. So this is a scripted effect, which has the on-staff hit. Because you don't hit things with the staff, you hit things with the enchantment. So this here will have this default errors. I can change the area duration and all the stuff about it. I can even change the name and whatnot. I just can't change the script attached to it. So with that, I have this attached to the effect, so every time you hit something with the staff, the script will fire. Or rather, game will run this specific script. So magic effect scripts are different from event handlers because these are actually built into the engine and not added on by the script extender. So there's actually 3 blocks I can have. I have script effect start, script effect update, and script effect finish. I only need start though, which is just to set target to get self. Because the magic effect scripts, as explained here in the comment, these are actually, they aren't run by me on the target, they're actually run by the target on themselves. Which is a really odd thing. But we roll with it. So we just get self, which will get whoever the heck got hit by us, and then we check if they're an NPC and they're not dead. Then we add the XP, and that's that. And then the game just does the rest of the damage calcs. Oh, also, because the staff has to be enchanted even before you get an enchantment kicks in for the other types, the staff will always have an enchantment. It has a base damage health effect on it, I added. Yeah, it has a basic damage health, and also what's unique to the staff to make it worthwhile to use over a bow is it has innate AoE to all the effects. So it actually adds AoE to everything, with the innate damage health having a wider radius. Again, modifiable in the ini file. See? That's all 0 feet. But yeah, the reason why the staff and the bow are separate entities in the engine, as opposed to all being the same, is that I do have OBSE functions that do let me change this axe into a bow or a staff. But a couple of oddities with that. One is, if you try to change a bow into a not bow, like if you change an axe into a bow, that's fine. If you change a bow into another bow, that's fine. If you change a bow back into an axe, that crashes the whole game. It's a crash to desktop. So, yeah, I have to make the bow a separate entity. So every time you swap to it, I just, as quietly as I can, I swap out the bow for the axe. And change all the variables, copy stat boosts and whatnot between them. There's like 2 functions dedicated to it. Whenever you run the model swapper code, what was it? Exchange gets called, which will store your last model ID. No, if charges out, like any other enchanted weapon, it just becomes normal. It's when durability hits 0 that it gets reset. The thing with the staff, though, is that we now have a base charge of 500 that, conveniently enough, you can actually assign charge to weapons that don't have enchantments, and it'll actually have that charge. It just won't show up in the UI. And also, conveniently enough with that, is the fact that if you try to... So in this one, because this one just, it calls the swap function for whatever model you currently have. So it swaps and copies stats between weapons. And then it adjusts damage, speed, and reach if you're not a staff, because staff doesn't have those stats. And then we call the set model function, and then we just say, it's changed form. And then we clean up after ourselves. Yeah, stabs have durability. So, actually, I can probably show it to you in the engine. These are the normal stats that any weapon would have, and the staff has all the same stats. I don't even know what a damage of greater than 0 would do for a staff, or reach, or speed would make the animation faster. Speed always just makes the animation faster. Yeah, so this so these 3 stats, speed, damage, and reach, are untouched by the scripts. They will always be static for the staff, but health, weight, and value will change, as will the charge and the specifics of the enchantment, but it will always have that specific enchantment. So that runs that. Then we go to swap. So this handles swapping out things like the bow and the axe or for the staff. And whenever you need to swap between these 3 engine objects, this is the function that handles it. Which basically, it takes 2 weapon IDs and an enchantment, and then it just swaps them if necessary. So it checks either A, that you actually have the old weapon in your inventory, otherwise we're not going to swap, and B, that they aren't the same. So that way, in exchange, I don't have to check. If you're trying to switch from a bow to a bow, I can just, okay, hey swap function, we're going to swap from a bow to a bow, and then it'll check itself and do what and either go through with this or not. So we start our set function value for like what the new self in the main function should be. So keep track of what it should change stats for. So first off, we add the weapon, we do it without notifications, so that's what the NS does. Gets rid of all the notifiers and the sounds. Then whatever stats aren't updated, which would be health, weight, and value, as well as name, so we copy the name. We do stat set 2, which of course adjusts weight, what I just said, weight, health, and value. And because that's too many params, we just have to do dot notifiers to pass them in directly. Then we set the object charge, and then here we have to be sure we're not doing the staff, because staff is different from everything else. But if it's not the staff, then this is where the past enchantment ID comes in handy. Where if it's above the enchant start, then we assign the enchant to it, otherwise we get rid of it because we shouldn't have an enchantment. Because these changes actually persist between loading saves. Like, once I modify DLScalar 3B, it's modified for all your saves, and that's why I have to reinitialize it every time you load a save. Otherwise, the changes just persist from save file to save file. And if I add to them, if I just say, oh, I assume it's base, and then we add 10 damage to it, if you load save, it'll be like 11 damage. Then you load save again, it's now 21, and then 31, and then 41, and you keep loading save, and it keeps adding 10. So I have to keep resetting it back to base values. That's what that's about with removing the enchantment. Then we transfer health and charge, and I didn't know this at the time I wrote it, I just kind of hoped it would be true. Turns out it is that regardless of how they're sorted in the UI, how they're actually indexed in your inventory array is actually in the order you pick them up, or what they were added. Since we just added the new item, it will always be in the last spot in your inventory. So we know that your old weapon will always appear before the new weapon. So we can always just get the health, and then in the exact same loop, pass it over to the new version. Okay. Then of course we check the equip flag, know if we have to equip our weapon anyways. And again, I do the equip item 2. I would love to have this be equip item silent. But the inconvenient thing about this is that the construction set's unequip item function will run the on unequip block on the object script. So if I unequip the item, it's going to run this block. But if I equip the item if I use code to force equip the item, it does not run this block. This block remains unrun. So OBSE had to hack in a second version, and that's what the 2 is for. So it actually runs that block. And then the NS, because there isn't an equip item to silent version, there's only an NS version, so you still hear the equip sound. But you shouldn't get any kind of pop-up or anything else other than the equip sound. And then we get rid of the old weapon. And that's how you swap things. But the nice thing about the thing is that if you have, say, 500 charge on your weapon and you try to pass it, what this will do is it'll copy that current charge over onto the new weapon. If that new weapon has a max charge of 0, that 500 charge then gets lopped off to 0, so when you go back to the staff, your staff will have 0 charge. Which goes back to what I said about unenchanted items can have a charge, and it doesn't show on the UI, and that's where it's convenient. Because the sword and the bow, even if they're not enchanted, still have that 500 charge, so it still saves the current charge from the staff. So you don't have to recharge it every time you swap to the staff. So that was that part that's convenient about unenchanted items having a charge, but why these are all separate. I explained the bows because it crashes. The staff is separate because I didn't want to quite deal with a certain other oddity, which is the fact that enchantments have types that determine what they can be assigned to. Yeah. So again, there's different enchantments have different types that determine what they can be assigned to, and the thing is, weapon and staff are separate enchantment types. So I can't assign three. I can assign my normal enchantment to the staff. If I try to do that, because I did that initially, assuming that it would just work, because they're both weapons. Things got really odd, really fast. Like, trying to assign a non-staff enchantment to a staff broke a lot more than just the enchantment. It broke all the model swapping and all the stat stuff. It was just pain. Like, I don't even. Oh, God. It broke everything. It just short of crashing the game is what happened. So instead of figuring out how to convert one enchantment into a staff enchantment, I just said, fuck it, I'll make a staff enchantment, I'll make a staff object, and I'll just swap them out. Same deal with the bow. Case closed. That's why we have 3 objects in the engine. Yeah, Bethesda. I mean, what also may not make sense to you is the fact that anytime you add or remove an item from your inventory, it doesn't update your inventory. Like, but I think console commands do that. I don't know if I can do the console commands from... if I can demonstrate it with console commands, but I'll try. Assuming I have my fingers in the right spot. Item... my favorite Daedric Claymore. Ah, I've got the hotkeys. Claymore's freaking auto-close inventory. Alright. I think it was either a Y or something that closed it, so... that item... I'll try it. Okay. O goes to there, so that explains that. So I'll just do it out of inventory. And then I can just do up stuff to copy it back in there without triggering the hotkeys. And then we'll do the remove item. So that one's also in there. So I have one. Now we add the item. And it's there. And it seems like I can't demonstrate that with console commands. But one of the things to know about is that this doesn't actually... if I add an item to inventory, it doesn't update the UI. Yeah, maybe you have where, like, it still shows Duskfang, even though it should be on Dongfang, even though you have Dongfang inventory or something. Or, like, if I do here, I add the item, it won't show up in inventory. And if I remove an item, it still shows in inventory, even though it's not actually there. And you can still highlight it, but you can't really do anything with it. Or if you try to select it, it'll choose something else random in your inventory. So it doesn't update automatically when you add and remove stuff. So how you actually force an update, force a refresh of the UI, is you have to equip things. That's how it works. Actually, I'm thinking about it. I'm not sure if I have it proper. Because if it's equipped, it should force the equip. But if I switch it to a bow... oh, it actually does work. So I probably did fix that. I did address it. Let's see, do I have exchange up? No, that's object S. So exchange would... Oh, we call swap. But basically, you have to equip or unequip an item in order to refresh the inventory UI. And also, to refresh the model, you also have to equip it too. Which is why, if it's already equipped, then the set model thing will actually auto-re-equip it, and it does so as quietly as it can. That was also one bug I had to deal with this. So that way that would update and you wouldn't still see the ebony mace in your inventory. And how I got around that was... Oh, there's weapon eat, and then we have... I made a function for it that is only used here because you can just equip or unequip Referral itself for all the other spots where we refresh inventory. But here we have... Yeah, I call it here. This function, which just adds a random item. Actually, an empty item to be precise. It's really empty. There's no model, no icon, no nothing. But it takes up your torch slot. And so I save what you have equipped in your torch slot, and then just add this to your inventory, and then equip it, unequip it, then remove it, and then re-equip whatever the heck you had in that slot. And nicely enough, if you even though this doesn't suppress the sound, apparently force equipping a torch doesn't make a sound in the first place. So this is completely silent. But that way, the ebony mace is actually gone when it's removed, and it doesn't linger in the UI. That's why we have 3 objects in the engine. And technically 4. We have 4 items and 2 enchantments. Right, so why I have such detailed header code is that I think I have it easily accessible. Not technically on me, but technically on me. It's in my house. My portable tower. Also, I should deposit my loot. Do that beforehand. So yeah, PC Oblivion doesn't have any hotkeys at all. You have to do all the menu navigation with the mouse. It's a mod that adds them. And as you can see, the mod can't suppress the hotkeys if you're doing other things. Not even in the console. Maybe I should fix that. They are really nice to have, though. Makes menu navigation a lot faster. That's enough for now. Alright, so I keep in here. Yes, this. So, Knights of the Nine Revelation is a mod that expands on the DLC. And as you can see, it has these 3 enchant effects. And I've looked those in the engine. Maybe I should load it. I don't know if I want to risk it though with the game active. Because it was either like a save or something that I did while the game was live and it corrupted a lot of files and I had to do Such a goddamn squeaky clean install. I had to even reinstall Rybash to get rid of all the bugs. So, like, yeah, even the construction set is buggy as all hell. Now, where the heck was Knight to the 9? Get rid of that so I don't end up making an accent. I shouldn't be set, but still. For safety's sake, let's disable that, and then look for Revelation. Yep. So the default, this is the construction set extender, which is a mod for the construction set that makes it more stable than the normal construction set, as well as able to use the script extender's functions. The normal construction set crashes probably more than the actual game itself. Like, trying to load face gen for NPCs can crash the construction set pretty often. Or was it? What did I want to see? Right. So object window. It's a big mod, so there's a lot of things added. Which one did I have? As you can see, there are a lot of sword variants. While the number means it's a level, there's also the type, which tells the enchantment, whether it's an A, B, C, or something. Well, I'll just go for this. So that has a script, this has an enchantment. What was it? The enchant sword B21. Yep, and instead of develop the construction set, they worked on Test Gecko, which was even more buggy and unfinished. Just wasted. Wasted a lot of things. Use B21. That is not what I need. Was it like E21? Yeah, E21 has it. Well, I think what I had was maybe like yeah, it's E40. So here's the deal. You saw fire damage magicka, fire damage 23, and damage magicka 60 points, and then the script effect. This has no script attached. This has no script attached. This is actually a script effect with no script attached that's just called damage magicka 60 points. This fire effect has a script attached. And I wanted to try to do this for damage health, so I could like hide the XP handler inside the damage health by making them 1, because the engine doesn't let you do that. If you... I'll try to do it with like a normal thing. Yeah, because you ring. Like, Chameleon here, you can't add scripts at all to predefined effects. It has to be defined as a script effect, which is its own thing. If it's not a script effect, you can't assign a script to it. Where the heck was that enchantment again? So, oh boy. Yeah, Test Gecko, I think it was like for Fallout. I don't know what exactly it was for. It was either a construction set or some kind of... It was some tool used for editing files. Gosh, this is such a nightmare to navigate. So I'm kind of showing you the finish line already, but where am I? No, I'm not. This is the start. So this is the enchant effect. So all the other effects on this, so it actually does deal 23 points fire damage. It actually does do 60 points magicka damage. It has lethal cut, but the actual effects themselves all do nothing. All it is just one script effect, which does this, which calls some other script or something, and another spell. And all the script actually does is apply some bonus damage, where it deals like 10% of the enemy's max HP as damage. one thing to note is there's no commenting here. Hi? Welcome? It seems like an odd way to say hello. Anywho, as you see, there's no commenting here. So, good luck. So, my first thing is to look at what this Kotnar Crusader Relic Activator is. So, you go through all these objects. It must be an object, since we're calling move 2 on it. So, if we go into MISC, land text, no, not that, world object, I think it was. Yes, there's activators. So, we go through here, if you do it by editor ID, go through the editor ID, and there's no Crusader Relic Activator in here. Go down to the seas, and there's a bunch of castle stuff. But there's no Crusader Relic anything. So that's when I had to look through every single category for a Crusader Relic Activator, and there is none anywhere. But it still calls that, and it works. So what the hell? So that's when I actually had to boot up test4edit to go look for it, which is when I found out. Where the heck was it? Sylview. I think it was. Gosh, if I can find the exact name for it. Was it Dream Cell? Yeah, here it is. In the Dream Cell. So this should open up the. Maybe it won't. Render error. Render window. This is just a test cell for the mod. It's here just for holding things. And apparently, the oh gosh, it reset the list here. Crusader Relic Activator is actually, I think it was T, Shift T. I forget the shorthands for this. I know spacebar left click is how you move around, and I think it was Shift. So the Crusader Relic Activator is actually an invisible thing in here. Yeah. As you can tell, I'm not used to doing the actual level editor. This is what the CS is actually best at, is what it's really designed for, is for you to edit together levels and quests. It was very limited in terms of coding, but what I've done with the growth weapon is like entirely scripting and no level editing, so I'm not that proficient at this. But yeah, so it's Crusader Relic Activator, and if I can even actually get it, because I can get the base form with these menus. I can remember how to click on them actually. Yeah, I would like to know how to do modeling texturing too. Apparently it's not that hard, you just have to kind of go out of your way to learn it. There seems to be actual tutorials though for modeling, and a number of free editors too. Anyway, as we can see, the base form of this Crusader Relic Activator is actually the invisible activator. So with that, we then go back into World Objects, into Activators, and we go down to Eyes. Invisible Activator Has no script attached. Nothing. It's just an invisible activator. Which means that part's a dead end. We have to go back to the enchantment. Go back into Sword 40. Reopen this script. So that's a dead end. So all we have left is the current sword spell and the Kotanar Relic Control. So my initial thought was to look through engine objects again, but that is actually a script. Even organize these by name. Actually, I should probably not organize them by name, because that'll... Here we are, form ID. So relic control would be... Actually, let's go by name, because that should help a little bit. Yeah, Kotanar, then go down to the R's. Our relic control quest script. So here's the new script that it calls on, with the dot notation. And this is just version control, it's just making sure things are the right version. This is also where the health regen comes from for me having the heart. And that's all this does. It has the variables that are called on, but it doesn't do anything else with them. It doesn't set them, it doesn't call on them, it just holds on to them. And again, barely any commenting. I mean, I know what this script does because of these headers, but I have no idea what all these variables are for, or where they come from, or who they're called calls upon them. So it's another dead end, and the only thing I had to go on at this point was the fact that we have current sword spell. I know. This was the nightmare I had to go through. The only way I can gather it, because there are no classes in this, the only way you're going to share variables across different scripts, across different functions, across different anything, is either you make them a global, or you make them a variable in something that is attached to either a quest or an object or a spell or some kind of engine object. That way you can use dot notation to call on it. That's the only way you can call stuff from outside yourself. So they probably just attach that to the... Since it's already attached to a quest script, they just throw all the variables in there so other stuff can call on it. Instead of using global, because I used globals on my end for arrows up. Because I could have actually, instead of making it global, put it into manager and then just have them do dot notation to call on it. Where was the sword? I think it was B21 or something. Oh, that's the mace. Sword. Oh, actually, I'll go down to the highest level sword. So see. So this is all I had to go on. Just like, it said current sword spell. Maybe it's on the sword. It's a script here. And... where was it? And here we are. Sword spells. Refine the line, because this does set the sword spell. Yeah, here our current sword spell. This actually sets the current sword spell. This sets it. Then what the heck do we... Then how does it even do all the fire damage and damage magicka? If the script, all it does is do the 10% of your HP as damage. Well, that's because... If we go all the way back to the enchantment, I should not keep closing these at this point. Go back to the enchantment, and it basically calls the source as the relic activator, that invisible activator instance we find in the cell there in the background. Then it moves that to the target, whoever the fuck you're hitting with the sword, and then it has the activator cast the spell on them. No, that's it. And that spell, if I can find it, should be just a normal spell. It would be better if I had an actual name. Yeah, so there's the sword spell ID. We just go into magic, I guess, be under normal spells. And to the S, sword E spell. Which there are fire damage magica. It's just a normal spell. It does, and it's the actual normal effects. So we have that entire roundabout way of just doing some bonus damage in fire and damage magica. And no commenting whatsoever. After going through all of that bullshit, just to realize that, oh hey, if I want to do the same thing and have my damage health also trigger the XP handler, I then have to recreate the entirety of damage health. I have to either do that whole invisible activator thing, or have the script itself in the code recreate all the effects of damage health, including the physics interactions, which I did not want to do. So I just have them be separate. Because fuck that. Now that experience, trying to find out how that freaking damage fire script worked, was so traumatic that it caused me to redo the comments in literally every single one of my 30-something scripts. So I made the header so much more verbose, so that you know what scripts are used, what scripts call on stuff from this, what globals are used, what other globals are related to this, what exactly this script does, what engine objects there are, and what each variable is and what they're used for. As well as what each goddamn function does when they pop up with the comments. So these are all the scripts that get called inside this one single reference. These are all the scripts that are related to it. These are all the globals we use. These are all the globals that could call this, that could be used to call this. What it does, its parameters, everything. I made sure everything was easy to understand. So this one, it doesn't use any scripts, but it's related to model change because model change calls this one. So now you know, if you just look at this one, you'll go, oh hey, the main script is manager, and what's related is model change. So if you then go to model change, you'll then find top of all this menu code is it uses model page, and model TOC, and random model. And these scripts are also related. Exactly. Yes, my experience of trying. I just gave you the shorthand version, but that was really what happened when I tried to figure out how to do a scripted damage health. So horrible, I just redid all my comments. This part, it breaks the rules a little bit in two ways. One is that these two together are actually a list of all the functions out of all, not all the functions of all the scripts here. So basically, for main, this actually follows the rules of if it's used in main, then they're listed here. Related is just if it's not used in main, they're listed here. Because these are all part of the mod, and this is the main function. This is the main script. These are all the other scripts that aren't used directly in Manager. Same with the globals. These ones are called directly, these ones aren't. And engine objects will only appear here because we rarely use engine objects in any place else because we just pass reference variables instead of the actual reference IDs. But this here, so you should have gone to main at this point because I have main script at the top of every script to tell you this is the main one. Yeah, they can be. Kinda are. But yeah, so you should have come here at some point, which means you'll then see the engine objects, and you'll know anytime you see these, you know these are engine objects. So that's what you should look for. And that's to avoid the whole freaking invisible activator renamed to freaking Crusader Relic Activator, which doesn't appear in the object window. Ugh. This way, you know, everything's here. And then all the variables that just by lines, over half of this is actually just declaring variables. 535 out of... Oh, it's actually is not quite, little under half. Yeah. Half of the entire main is just declaring variables. I find that funny. This used to be a lot longer, though. Oh, and another quirk with Oblivion scripting. You see this green bar down here? There's a maximum script size. You can't go over it or else it won't compile. I think this started for me kind of explaining like how the bow XP handler works and the bug I just encountered, which then transitioned to explaining how the bow works, to why the bow is a separate object entity, to why everything else exists, to why the universe exists, to why 42 is the answer. But yeah, that's why there's a set model and set model 2. There's a maximum script size of about 30 kilobytes, and if you go over it, it doesn't compile. And a lot of this code used to be in Manager until I've factored it out. So this, like all the menu code used to be in inventory. Then I factored it out, and now inventory is just really short. In fact, I put it into GitHub because practice for when I get a job. And I think if I do 1.1, yeah, this is when I added menu code. So I think it was starting with Agramon or something that I started to put the transcripts of the stuff into TXTs because you can't use a regular code editor to look at it. You have to have the construction set, and I will not count on anybody having the construction set unless they already mod Oblivion. So this is how many scripts I had in 1.1 back when I actually added all the... This is 1.1 is when I added paging to the menus and had like 200 something models instead of like 70 total. So we don't have bows yet. So it still is just the melee weapon. We just have like the enchant warner, the XP handler, random model, and set model 2 because we were already over. So much shorter back then. And this one ended, I think, this one ended with daggers because I eventually added more swords, so I had to move daggers into set model 2. But you'll see there isn't the model change or model page or model TLC because going through here, yeah, I didn't factor this code out, so yeah. GitHub feels a bit easy to use once you figure it out. It's a kind of like console commands in that way. As you can see, if I compare... Yeah, so if I compare manager here. So this is like the very start. As you can see, we go up here. So the script flags used to not be in any settings. So those were set right here. And then we set the indices and the set cells up there, but now I don't because we have multiple cells. So that's set down here depending on what the model number is. And then I didn't have, my initial thought back then was to just, if I'm going to have default values, I have to set them here along with everything else, and I didn't have the space for that. I just didn't do it. I just would have to assume that they didn't fuck up the ini file. Now I don't, because I can put it into a separate function, separate script, and I just call that script to initialize everything, and then I call your ini file. So if that's fucked up, then you're still cool. But setting the stat adjustments, that one's separate, that got factored out into just stat adjust. All the weapon stat stuff got factored out into their own functions. And along with all the freaking options. Oh boy. This is also all the enchant code too. So that this is now all the stuff that sets the enchantment in main, and it was instead all this that just got factored out. And this isn't even all the options, because there's 10 total by the end. This only has like 4 options or something. XP rec is still pretty short though. I had that function from the start. And then same deal, all the enchant code just gets factored out eventually, so it's a lot shorter. The enchant code was just massive. But the thing is, that was just the gameplay code for like when you start up. Once we go into inventory, we then have the stuff that displays your active enchantment. That got turned into its own function. And then we have the model change menus, which were initially all here in main. And this is what I thought I couldn't factor out, because you have to set these specifically to the next page. Because these values here I have to set specifically, so I didn't think I could factor them out at first, but I actually could because they follow a set pattern. Because depending on the page number, I could tell whether I needed to like add or subtract anything from the index to get to the next page. So I have all these pages here, which makes the manager super duper long, thousands of lines already. We're not even done with that, and this was just the bulk of the code. And then, of course, when we go to the end, we get to set new model, and we have to set the stats again and call all that stuff. That was the end of the menu code, and now it's just this. Just you click on the button, it sets the you click on the button, it sets the model change, and then it just calls a function that does everything for you. So I factored out a shit ton of code. It's like 3,000 lines or something for a manager. As you can see, I used to have just like related scripts, related globals, and description up here, and now it's more verbose. Three 3,309 lines compared to 1,275. Oh, that's brutal. Yeah, factoring out the code really cut down the lines. But this also kind of made the amount of scripts a lot more. Because we used to have like. We used to have 9 scripts total. And now we have, I think it was like 35 scripts now, or 38. I don't know, we have like the upper 30s in terms of script numbers now. But this has definitely made things a lot more... I don't know, it's better practice to do it like this. In fact, make as many functions as you can. So, yeah, that is also, of course, I can actually get it in here because I actually download it for my mod page for the version I use in game. That's also to make sure it's not corrupt. But if I open it up in the file manager, it actually includes in the mod download all the transcripts, what you see in GitHub. So you don't even have to have the construction set to look at everything. And you still have the change log inside, and the readme and the work log. I don't even know who would read the work log, but the work log does record some of my some of the nightmares I had. Yeah, like here, this whole block here is when I started making the staff. Oh, this part, when I factored out some of the code, it didn't work. That's because of the dot notation. And that's why I'm saying like globals and stuff are bad practice in dot notation, because the model update just wasn't working right at all. Because basically I'd factor out the code, and that factored out code would call a function that would then modify a value in main. So the function that was factored out is still working with old values and not the new ones. And so things would just get wrong when you finally return. You know, like we've had an issue with the stat updates. Those two also were because they're using dot notation to get the stats because there's too many parameters to pass into functions. That also was like lagging behind using old values in the factored out code. So that was also behind by one form. And here's the part. So I had XP order. So I looked through the scripts. You look through documentation. You cannot add script effects to anything dynamically. It's unfortunate. You have to do it directly to objects. But then I dug into the Knights and Iron code, and this is all that I explained to you, now in writing form. And then, like, yeah, here's the part with when I did the Weapon Eater. When I tried the bug, just have Bethesda there. Because that's all I can say to this. Just these weird-ass fucking bugs. Yeah, so you get all that for free in the docs folder. That is how this sword's enchantment works. And why the heck that thing went flying, I don't quite know. That's why I decided I'm not going to deal with that. And so I just have that very explicit script effect there at the top. It's just growth at 17 feet on target. It also means I had to make explicitly separate level up functions for the staff because it doesn't use the same stats as the bow or blade and blunt. Yeah, let me just reiterate. This has been a month and a half. I started this in like the middle of February. It is now close to the middle of April, so I guess almost 2 months. Did I start in the beginning of February? I forgot when I started Shurifen. Look that up. Not page. This has links to Shurifen, which is the very first iteration. I know, right? I hate the sound, and I couldn't figure out a way to change it. I tried, I don't know how. So I got used to it eventually. But yeah, this is the first iteration. I released this on 8th of February. So I started like the 5th of February. So that was actually 2 months ago I started this journey. This growth weapon has been 2 months in the making. Hey, so but I just explained the entirety of Faragon and showed all the coding. Did you know it's on GitHub? Of course you did. You read Discord. You know, like Shurifen. Yeah, Shurifen was far simpler. Just 3 scripts. And instead of I initially wanted to do everything in the object script. Then I realized that was impossible, but it was already named script, so I just left it as is. So I renamed it to Object Induce Faragon because it's more accurate to what it is. This didn't really change much. As you can see, there's far less commenting. You still know which scripts are related, though, fortunately. If we encounter some more stuff, I might. There's the on-hit handler, which actually did a lot more than it needed to. Like, this also handles the level up condition as well as the halfway messages, which are now moved all the way to the main and then into their separate functions in Deuce Faragon. Otherwise, it's just XP logging. And the manager for this it's far simpler. I mean, it still seems pretty long. That's mostly because I had to copy and paste code, because this actually does almost exactly what Dawnfang and Dustfang does, which is just whenever the level up flag. So here at the start, we have initializer, which just it sets the XP requirements, adds it to player if they don't have it, and then whatever level you're at, it sets an on-hit handler. So instead of putting that in the object script and having that set and unset, on-equip, and unequip, it's instead set every time you load the save, depending on what weapon you have. Oh, I haven't even done front end yet. I'm curious how it works, but I'm not sure I'll specialize in front end. It's very different from back end, that's for sure. So on startup, we just set the event handler and the XP requirements. And all right. And all I do is just, hey, if you have, and this is just level up script, because how I handled Shurifen, I don't have it enabled, so I can't look at the ESP inside the construction set right now. But how I set it is instead of having one object that I then modify into whatever I want it to be, I instead literally made 21 versions of the same greatsword. And then all this script does is just when you level up, it finds out which one you have and then swaps it out for the next level one. So it swaps out level 1 for level 2 version, then the 2 for the 3 version, then the 3 for the 4 version, and so on until you're at max level, at which point it checks for that at the top and it just doesn't level up anymore. So this was a far simpler script. It looks long, but this is all just copy-pasted, doing the exact same thing as what it does before, it just swapping out the ID numbers. All the object IDs. So this was like the very first iteration of the growth weapon. And then it took me like a solid week to have the exact same thing happening, except with scripts, and that's what Agramon is. Which just does all of this. It has only one item, only one engine object, only one weapon in the engine. Instead of 21 different weapons, it's just one. And it handles all the stat changes in the script. And I carried this over to Referral, which adds a whole suite more of features. I'm more of an if someone asks, I'll go through it in depth, but I don't just do it out of the blue. Unless I have something to complain about. If I have something to complain about, then I may just go in depth so you understand just how frustrating the thing I just went through is. Wait, seriously, a formerly lightly modded Oblivion? That... yeah, that description is incredibly accurate. It's my own playthrough. This was lightly modded. Initially, I just had it be straight vanilla, but with like the textures updated and some quality of life. And now it's just got fish people and Daedra everywhere and a growth weapon. Yep. The next playthrough is going to be heavily modded, though. I'm going to have to like spend a few days making sure there aren't any immediately crashing bugs, but once it's in the clear, we'll have that. Yeah, so second playthrough, I'm going to install Oblivion Reloaded, so things will look very aesthetically different because new graphics engine. Because Oblivion Reloaded literally rewrites the graphics engine for Oblivion. I didn't use it because I compared it to vanilla and it just wasn't vanilla enough for me, and I didn't know how to change all the settings to make it look vanilla, so I didn't use it. And stability's been alright. Oh, out of charge. I almost hit the nuclear part though, because we're at like over 100% weakness to magic, so each smack with my axe will deal like, first it's double damage, then it's quadruple damage, then it's octuple damage, then it's 16 times, then 32 times, and then 64 times, and it just exponentially spirals out of control. We almost got there, and then it ran out of charge. Oh, really? Excited? It might be a recent one, because when I started, there wasn't any mod like that. Or at least any finished mod. Because I might have found an incomplete one. Oh, what's also odd but convenient is that, did you know that if you try to equip an item that cannot be equipped, it still runs the on-equip block? That would be pretty... Honestly, it would have been helpful when I started this playthrough, but for the next one, I'm gonna go not vanilla. Maybe. I don't know, I'm gonna do a more heavy graphics overhaul for the next playthrough. I just know that much. Don't know how far north into the Niven I should... Actually, this is just a huge, massive... This is actually an landlocked ocean, an actual map of Tamriel. It's just a giant lake in game now. Ooh, boy. Twitch whispers? I haven't had those in a long time. Forever, really. I know where to look. I had them once. Only one, though. Well, look at you, Mr. Popular. I really do have... I'm not going to make estimates anymore as to how much longer this playthrough will go on for. You really just can't even begin to guess how much longer the Stranded Light will take. I thought this would be a couple more streams, but no. We don't just get the tower, we have to wait freaking half a month for the tower. Oh, really? Well, that would explain it. And I'm impressed a little 400-line bot can actually get monetization offers already. Yeah, I know there will come a day when I stop modding Oblivion, but that day will come when I stop playing Oblivion. Which will be probably at the end of my second playthrough. Probably. But that second playthrough is gonna take, like... shit. 2 years? 3 years? 4 years? I don't know how long. Well, I only know what you tell me, so I only think what you tell me. Pure pressure, man. Oh yeah, this bug. So, once you have Master Acrobatics, and if you land right on the edge of the water, the game still thinks you're airborne, because it's trying to, like, I guess, submerge you, but you can't because you're on land. Eventually, it'll, like, autocorrect itself, or you can just go back into the water. It limits your move speed, which is really bothersome. But I just kind of stick with it, because, I don't know, levitation? Weird. There we go. Oh, okay. I thought that was like a map, but no, that's just a naked Daedra. Ooh, okay. I mean, just restarting your PC takes 10 minutes, so that would be a good time to get food. Oh, that's unfortunate. Alright, so I've talked to the 3 Malmer that I know of. Well, 4 now. And we have some leads, but not a whole lot. So I know one was eaten by a giant shark, one was eaten by a giant netch, one was eaten by Bosmer. And then there's like 2 more that I don't quite know. I don't know how long my PC takes to restart because I rarely restart it. I usually put it into hibernate. But yeah, I don't have a sub 1 minute restart either. It takes a couple minutes at least. But I don't think it's 10 minutes. But maybe it is. I haven't timed it. Anywho. So, what do we know? We know Cerealia is here. And there's 14 total. We found Tyradar, that's 2. The twins went back home, so that's 4. And Atize is in the Merendon, that's 5. I wish Silbit could make use of that, but I don't think it's cross-platform. That's unfortunate. It seems like only you and I can actually make use of it. Wait, a Doom joke? And fire for a Doom joke? Okay, I need to check out one of those. I would love to play Doom if I had the cash. And while I would eventually play Doom Eternal, only after I play the first game, because I've watched a review of Eternal and they say that the movement system in Eternal spoils you and you can't go back to Doom. So I gotta play the first Doom first, then Eternal. This is why I'm out Oblivion. I can make a new game out of an old one. Well, I've got a GTX 970, which came out in like 2015 or something like that. It's an old graphics card. Like, I can still play on like medium to medium low settings for like very modern games, but for all the games that I currently have, when I could last had cash, I can still play on like high settings. Where the hell? Oh, right, I'm going back. And also, this... Oh. Oh, you have a pre-built. Oh, I mean, pre-builts do save you a bit. I don't know if pre-builts are cheaper than making them yourself. I'd assume they are. That might be one of the... Oh, for free. Well, that is cheaper. Yeah, pre-builts... I'd just say custom building a PC is probably better. Actually building it is pretty easy. It's just like Legos, or everything just snaps into the motherboard, and then you just screw the motherboard into the case, and that's it. But the real difficult part is researching all the parts, making sure everything's compatible with the motherboard, and that it's all like up to date with no issues or anything. And then the pricing. So, eh. Hmm. Alright, back to counting how many survivors we found. So at the twins we have 4 accounted for. And Tize makes 5. Aurelius is 6. And Moralte is 7. It's actually half, didn't think we'd have half by then. Origel is 8, he's eaten. Powell is 9. And Strensky is 10. Okay, so there's 4 more to find. Now I've gotten word on 10 already, which is surprising. I would only have like 4 counted for, or 5. I've had an old college buddy really interested in a Raspberry Pi, and we almost got one during our college years, but I don't know, plan fell through at some point. I don't think either of us pursued it seriously enough to actually go through and order it. But we did make a big hype about it for a time. Alright, we were talking about making a GBA emulator on it. But then I found out that I'd have to learn out how to do all the video encoding, and I have no idea where to start on that, so I'm like, no thank you. I am really hoping that Skyrim's construction set has classes and other things. Because it has a script extender, they obviously still have a very limited programming language, but I hope it's better than Oblivion's. I have been introduced to Python. I think that's like my second most experienced language, but that's like a distant second or third. I don't know if I know Python or C more, but C++ is my first. Then I had like a lot to do with C because that just has a lot in common with C++, so we learn lower level things. And Python, because I took a lot of courses explicitly about Python. Ooh. You know, I guess I'll just go to Aurelius, and I already kind of explored a bit to the North Seas for that other guy. Like, I went along here and there, and I even went off to the map into the west, and I didn't really find him, so maybe I'll search up this river. I don't know. So Betty Spaghetti. Alright. That is now your roll, Sobit. You can check Discord that is now your roll. Moving too fast for the engine. A little bit. I'm restreaming to Twitch, DLive, and YouTube. Those 3 platforms. And I am known by the same name on all 3. I mean, YouTube sucks for monetization. Like, you should not go there for monetizing anything or making any kind of a living off of creating stuff. Unless you're, like, pre-established, because you need to be big, like at least 100k big, to make even a dime on there. However, it does have some pretty good basic tools, like automatically archiving streams, as well as a DVR thing, so people can actually rewind live streams. Which is handy for Alyssa, who has very bad internet and can't actually watch these live. Meanwhile, Twitch is a well-established platform, and DLive is a smaller platform, so I may more easily get discovered there. I should just activate Night Eye at this point. It's going to be bad blue, but we can see a bit better underwater. Oh, it was YouTube, Twitch, and DLive. DLive because it's a newer streaming platform, so I'm more likely to get discovered there and actually get a real following. Twitch because it's well established. YouTube because it has some good basic tools, but otherwise it's a shitty platform. But it's good for archiving. I mean, if you want to survive as a creator on YouTube in these days, you actually need a Patreon or any kind of way for people to donate, because the advertiser money is not only highly inconsistent, it is very measly. Like, you're making maybe 16 cents per video. And that's only if you have, like, at least 200,000 views or something. I get, like, 3. So I'm making jack shit over there. I'm actually making jack shit everywhere, so I'm not big enough to get partnered with anybody. But still, stream for the fun of it, and the social contact, and eventually it'll get monetized. Eventually. Not now. Right now I'm broke. Man, just where the hell are these freaking Malmer? Oh, whoops. Water breathing. Okay. And featureless underwater. How much longer do we have to go? A very long way. Let's speed boost. Okay, we're starting to get some rocks. So I guess we're out in the... yeah, we're out in the bay now. No idea where this goes, though. Or where anything goes. Oh, I can see underwater now. Cool. I mean, this should be reflecting the surface, so I don't know what the hell's up with me being able to look underwater this clearly. Like, this really shouldn't exist. Either the turbidity, which make it hard to see like this underwater, or the reflection, because water reflections are on, but they aren't reflecting. Oh, hello, hello, Nerva. I haven't seen you here in a long time. Oh hey, all 3 platforms are active tonight. That's a slaughterfish, right? That's a mud crab. No, no, I'm not finding any. I'm looking for some fish people, but I don't... I have some very vague leads, but I'm not finding any. Uh, Maumer. I'm looking for Maumer. Which I don't think you're that deep into the Elder Scrolls lore, so I doubt you know what they are. They would translate to the Sea Elves. And because they normally don't appear in ES games, there's a bit of debate about what they really look like. But this current mod's interpretation, I can show you. ULive? No, it's DLive. There's YouTube and DLive. And you even misspelled it. So actually show up in the journal. It doesn't quite show it in the journal. Here it is. Maormer. Yeah, they are an SO as enemies. But SO's a bit... While it seems to be generally accepted now, it still is a bit controversial about whether it really counts in the grander scheme of the lore. Yeah. Here's a Maumer. This guy I already found. Ignore the detect life, making him look like an absolute nightmare. Got a little fish tail when he breathes underwater, and he's just here waiting for a ship to depart that never will, because the world is not that dynamic. And I'll reiterate here since you brought it up, but just don't play ESO. I played ESO for like 5 years. I can tell you it's a shit game. It's an okay game at the best of times, and it uses a lot of standard boxes to get you fully addicted to the game, so you just keep playing it every day even though you're not having fun, and that's how I played it for 5 years. Before I finally broke free, because Oblivion modding is just that good. I mean, I've had the view of SO as a bad game for years now. At first, no I didn't. At first, it was like, it's a new Elder Scrolls game after so long. Let's give it a good shot. I'm having good time with the lore. But then I kind of did most of the content, and I started to dig deeper into the game system, like I always do, like figuring out how things work. And then I realized it was such a goddamn dumpster fire underneath, and that they weren't fixing any of the underlying issues, they're just adding more on top of it. And I'm like, this is just a bad game. And something about just, it's the writing and the UI together just makes you not want to actually care about all the dialogue. Yeah, like, one of the issues that's still there, still underlying thing, comes from the fact that apparently ESO was originally a tab target game, using a tab target engine, and then they hacked that into an action game, or they tried to. So you'll find that when you shoot projectiles at stuff, you don't actually shoot a projectile, you just click on an enemy, and then there's like a timer as your little graphics effects of an arrow just kind of homes in on them. It'll like turn 90 degrees in midair if they move away from where you're shot. It's a, you could call it a soft lock system, and that kind of kills immersion, and the soft lock is there for everything, so even with melee, where like it doesn't matter. Like here, it has to be in sight when the axe comes down, but the ESO only cares about when I click, so I could do that and it still hit the rock, because I was aiming at the rock when I clicked the button. It basically means that like the footwork stuff that makes Oblivion combat so fun is absolutely impossible in ESO. You have to break line of sight or there's just no evasion whatsoever outside of like dodge rolling, which gives you like kind of iframes. They don't protect you from AoE, which I mean makes sense. It's a decent way to counter it, but even that has fucking clunk to it. I'd say the publishers, not the developers. I still think developers are actually trying to make a good game, but the publishers have hamstringed them majorly, as well as upper management. So the publishers are focusing entirely on the new player aspect of ESO. So what I'll say is, as a new player, for the leveling side of it, if you're like at level 1 and going all the way to level 50, it's actually a fun game. Like, I will say, I do remember leveling a character kind of recently, and that was pretty fun. But once you hit max level, you get to the end game content, and you get to doing things as a veteran player, it goes from kind of fun to shit real fast. But by then, the Skinner boxes have already got you hooked, and so you're just playing a game you hate day in and day out. Oh yeah, that's partially that's just because it's a long-running MMO, so hyperinflation is a thing. I'm not entirely sure how to really address that. That's just a huge problem that many MMOs have that are long-running. Where the hell am I even going? Nowhere near water, and we're looking for water people. Alright, there was the seer that mentioned Malmer on offhand out in Shaden Hall. Yeah, that doesn't make sense, but because it's used as a crafting material, like a common crafting material, that does make sense. That's so cheap. But it's a gemstone, too. So like, why is it a crafting material? Oh, then there's the inventory thing. Like, oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Inventory management in that game is a fucking shit show. So you get, like, maximum if you manage to upgrade your horse, his carrying capacity to max, and you upgrade your backpack to max, and you upgrade your bank capacity to max, you should have 440 inventory slots to work with. That's less than half of what you need for all the goddamn crafting shit they shove down your throat just by killing stuff. You have to discard so much crafting items, otherwise your bank and your inventory is full all the time. And plus, that game isn't really driven by player skill, it's driven by player stats. At least, like, 60% of the engagement is determined by the gear you're wearing, and not the player who's playing. So you have to carry, like, if you want to play in multiple content, you have to carry, like, 3 or 4 gear sets with you. And keep in mind, there's, like, 7 armor slots. Oblivion has 5. We also have shoulders and waist in ESO. Then we have the 3 jewelry slots. We have the 4 weapon slots, and you have to carry, like, all that times 3. Plus all the crafting stuff, and all your consumables. And then all the crafted gear is freaking bind on pickup or bind on equip. So there goes the fucking crafting economy. Yeah, like, I can't deny it's a good new player experience, but it's not a good game. Don't let it fool you. Oh yeah, and there's animation canceling. So you can actually perform up to 3 actions per tick, the server. To be precise, there's like an order to it. So this was actually a bug that they just couldn't fix, or they didn't bother to fix. And so they made it a feature, and there's still no tutorials on it whatsoever, even though it's official. You have your basic attack, which is the light and power attacks. You have your skills, and then you have your ultimate. And those all form a... Those all have priorities. So if you do a light and then a skill, you can animation cancel. You can do that in Oblivion too, but more so it's block canceling. Because blocking actually lets you cancel recoveries in Oblivion. And then you can immediately cancel the block with an attack. So with that, you can do animation canceling in Oblivion. I doubt they removed it completely, but I think they made it more fluid. I remember because I do look into the patch notes every so often. I remember them doing some stuff to make like block canceling look more right and less jank. But yeah, because of that, you can do like a light attack, your ability, and then you can cancel your ability with a block, and then bash with that. I'm scrolling the chat, because that's just how 32-bit games do. So with that, you can actually do... It's pretty resource intensive, but you can do 3 attacks per tick. Like that, where you do a light, then ability, and then do a bash. Most people don't do that because the bash is what really drains your resources, so it's mostly just like light ability. And then because the ping isn't quite optimal, you're usually on like, even if you are like right next to the data center, you still have like 130 ping. It doesn't fully matter a lot because of the whole soft lock, so missing isn't a big issue. But you can get hit with like 3 abilities because of like one lost packet or something before you know what's going on. Oh, and then there's crits. Crits are just out of control, and really what makes DPS actually DPS. And it still is a huge RNG factor in the game. One of the reasons why skill isn't a big factor. But they haven't addressed crit at all. All they did was make it worse. So when the game released, we had the impenetrable trait, which used to actually directly counter the crit rate. So you have your crit rate, it was like default 0%. Now they have like a base 10% crit rate. It used to be 0. They'd have like your 20%, and then you'd have your impen that could like reduce it to 7% crit rate. Or even to a 0%, you can actually go over. And that, I think, was good design because it created imperfect balance thing, where like people make crit builds in PvP, and then people adopt impenetrable to counter them. And everybody's running impen, so then people stop using crit builds. So then people see nobody's using crit builds, so we stop using impen, and then people realize, oh hey, crit builds are good again. So we start, and the cycle starts anew. But then Roval, a guy who just fucked up ESO for like 3 or 4 years before freaking Wheeler finally replaced him, decided we're going to make impen reduce crit modifier and not crit rate. And even though he also removed soft caps from everything in the game, he didn't remove a soft cap from impen. So you can't actually fully modify the crit modifier. Not even the base 50% crit modifier. I think you can reduce it by like 40%, get like a minus 40% or minus 30% on the crit modifier from the base 50% increase. But you can increase the crit modifier to plus 100%. And you can increase your crit rate to, I think the highest I remember hearing was like 80% crit rate with a 100% crit modifier. And you can get like at most like a minus 30 or a minus 40 on the crit modifier. crits are pretty shit. And they ain't addressing those. And then there was the other thing I used as an example of how bad the design is in the game, is how freaking the mounts work. Ugh. So this was like the change from when Referral took over, and also when they changed from a sub model to a buy to play with optional sub. Which was, it used to be you get a mount, and you could feed that mount once per day, and you could feed it up to 60 times. It would have some kind of base stats. You could get up to 60 increases. So if you want a fast horse, you get a horse that already had high base speed, then just feed it speed upgrades every day for 2 months, and that was it. And you could use that mount on all your characters. So you have a max speed mount once, and that will be it. So you'd have your speed mount, your carrying, your pack mule, and whatever kind of crossbreed you wanted. But with the update to buy to play, they changed that whole system. So now you can actually max out all the stats on your mount. So you can have max carrying capacity, max stamina, max riding speed. Except it still takes 1 upgrade per day, so now it's gone from 2 months to 6 months to max out. And it's per character, not per mount. Because it's... Yeah, I think I have to make it a mod to allow links. I wonder if I can do that for... I don't think I can do that from Restream. It's worth a try, though. No, all I can do is block or reply. So yeah, now it's per character, which means every time that you want... every time you make a new character, you have to spend half a year training their mount speed, or spend like 80 bucks in the cash shop to just skip all of it. That game is so shit. I haven't even talked about the clunkiness in rolls, so you know how to have the whole soft lock system, right? How the only way to dodge is with dodge rolls, because they get iframes. But the iframes don't ignore AoE. Well, oh boy. We're gonna start with this one. So of course you can counter dodge rolls by using AoE attack. That's all fine. Good. Except when you roll, your hitbox doesn't actually align with your character model. As in... Yeah. So basically, when I roll ESO, my hitbox doesn't update to my character until the roll animation completes. Which means it's not until I'm blocking again that my hitbox actually is updated. Which means my hitbox, if I roll from the tree, my hitbox is at the tree until I'm done rolling. So if you want to roll catch somebody in that game, you have to use an AoE skill, you have to aim it at the tree until I'm all the way over here, where I can just roll immediately after again, and move really fast away, while my hitbox is just blinking across the terrain. And they never addressed that. I'm pretty sure I reported that, like, years ago, and it hasn't been addressed.
What do you need, champ?
Yeah, a dumpster fire is an apt way to describe everything going on under the hood. But just to kind of add insult to injury, because it's an MMO, you can't mod it outside the UI. So there's no unofficial patch to try and fix all the bullshit that I just described. You just have to hope. That's the wrong spell. Oh, I think the weakest magic wore off. There we go. Yeah, you just have to wait for the frickin' money-grubbing publishers to give the devs the green light to actually fix their shit. We all know that's not gonna happen. Yeah. Well, if you want to know why the performance is also crap, that's because when they initially made the game, they decided to make all the calculations client-side. Because apparently it was their first time making a multiplayer game, so I thought, oh, instead of stressing out the server with all this stuff, we can just have the players calculate their stuff and then report to the server. As you can tell, that led to some massive and immediate hacking. People had infinite ultimate, teleporting around the map, high speed, infinite stats, all kinds of things. The server wasn't checking if it was okay, it was just like, oh hey, we're just gonna tell the other people what you did. And they just had this mad scramble once all the hackers became everywhere to shift it all server side. Weren't prepared for it at all. Yeah, that's why the servers go down all the time, because they initially didn't plan for it to be server side. It was supposed to be client side. And it ran smooth as butter. I assure you, we had like 2,000 player battles with everybody on screen, all 2,000. It was freaking butter smooth, 100 frames per second. But you had hackers everywhere. And then to address the hackers, they had New Earthing server side in like a week's time frame or something, which led to the servers crashing every time you had 13 players on screen. I mean, they're making a concerted effort this year to like try and up the performance, but it already seems like it's not having the intended effect from what I'm hearing of people that still play.
Yes, Master, you need me?
Where the heck was that seer?
Hello.
I know she lives in this town. Just don't know her full schedule. Yeah, I have like a number of max level characters in ESO. As I said, I played it for years and years, but I haven't really played it in like months. Oblivion, I think, is really what let me get out of that abusive relationship. I'm glad I'm gone. We got level up. Level 74. Went over halfway to next level, apparently. Yeah, good. I'm not sure what they would count as less or more important, though. I'm not that experienced at networking. Let's see, who's where? I think it was Maressi the Seer was the name, which is not a vanilla NPC, so you can't just look her up on UESP. I know that you could try that now that you have a name, but no, she's a part of the Stranded Light. The Stranded Light has 0 documentation. Which, that was one of the things it touts though, because it's like, oh, it's a long burn quest where you have to find things out for yourself, which is satisfying, but also like, when you're stuck, what the fuck do you do? Here she is. And
I
Desi
hope
was
I
here.
can help.
Of course, she'll have to tech life up. I guess I'll go back to Ocean Moth then.
Farewell.
Like, I've been able to talk to her a bit, but she hasn't had any quests directly related with her yet. I'm wondering what's up. Just kinda there. Dropping some hints, I guess. I'm not sure if, like, my game right now can handle a 4-stack. I mean, the reason why, like, stutters outdoors is because it's of poppin'. Because the engine's set up so that it basically pauses the whole game when it needs to load in terrain. So I'm moving fast, and it's loading pretty fast because it's modern hardware. But it still has to, like, pause to pop stuff in. That's what the frame drops are outdoors. I'm just kind of concerned if it drops too many frames it might crash. This is a 2-stack, which already lets us go airborne. Not that high, though. 4-stack can take us across Tamriel and beyond. We hit a rock just right. Although a 4-stack is also risky, because the 4-stack actually has us moving faster than the physics and engine can handle, so it doesn't actually do collision detection properly, and we can clip inside the terrain as we run into it before it loads. I would consider them separate series, so as far as, like, if I want to play them in order, they'd be separate. But I think if I had the liberty to choose, as in, like, the finances and the time to choose, I would do 2016 first, because I think I'd want to see the more modern gameplay first, because I get the original is legacy, and playing classics is usually a good thing, but they're also old school game design, which can be, depending on the game, can be very frustrating to deal with. For sake of, like, playing for completion, I'm going to consider them two separate series. I know Doom 2016 is technically a continuation of the story, but I'm counting it as a separate thing.
Martin's is a friend of mine. How can I help you?
Oh, I don't remember this name. Okay, so I think that's the 11th person. Oh, that's the 12th. So I'm just going back and forth between these same three freaking Malmer to try and find someone.
Farewell.
It's just a lot of back and forth. Alright, see you later, not bored.
I'm
It's nice
honored to
chatting with you.
speak to the
See you
champion
tomorrow
of
night.
Cyrodiil. What do you need? Farewell.
Okay, time to 4-stack it, because we're going off terrain, so we shouldn't have anything to load. I don't know what to say to a bot saying that. Like, I don't know if that's declaring that the bot itself is running or if it's somehow sentient, recognizing the fact that we're running really fast. Or swimming really fast at this point. This is why we don't do it mainland. Now it's just the shore. Alright, and now we're normal speed. Okay, so if I talk to him... Yeah, try to speak, but water fills your lungs. So I need to cast Traveler, which also means Nightmare Face. Oh, can't ask him. Well, at this point we're just going to teleport. Oh, wow, we're way past the 2-hour mark. I know I started at 9, but damn, almost midnight.
A pleasure to speak with you.
Probably can't. You cannot help me.
Farewell.
Okay, I doubt anyone besides a Tease can help me.
Good day.
Okay, so that's Deshri. I think that makes 12. And where's to live? Fuck, I can't ask you.
Be seeing you.
What the hell?
Good to see you.
Alright, first recall should be at Ocean Moth.
Greetings,
It's like I gave him a fucking telephone. Alright, now where can I teleport to that's like near Anvil? To the west. Guess Malakath. Malakath is pretty north, but it's kinda... I was trying to avoid the load screen, but oh well. There's probably more time than just loading outside Anvil. Alright. Aurelius, do you know a Sully or whatever? To live. Another fucking name. It was Rendrick. Help me! Where is Vendray? Another dead person. Freaking hell. It's not rapid spam. Anyway, is that everyone? Okay. Okay, I'm gonna ask Atize though. Just one last time. Okay, I'm not swimming. I'm still speed boosted though.
I hope I can help.
No, you don't have any dialogue. Okay, so then Aurelius, and then we're to the Niven.
You too.
Invale. Gosh, this long-ass quest is coming to an end. Well, it was long if you don't have teleport spells. If you do have teleport spells, you can just kind of keep darting between the three. It's just a wild goose chase, huh? Oop, no dialogue. Okay. To the Isles. Fourth recall. Okay. Now. Okay, Traveler's refreshed. And we'll just run to water camp. Can't believe I went on a wild goose chase. Spent so much time actually swimming up north. No, it's nowhere to be found.
Your humble servant, my
Oh, there, Bollywog. Got a bone and a pearl. Okay, now it's time to talk to Mr. Nightmare Face, who's also crazy. Doesn't think he's crazy, but he is crazy. Alright, let's ask about rumors. Yeah, he belongs here. Pay me first. Nah, I can't ask that. And the rest of the crew? Oh, I have to actually... Oh, shit. Hopefully there was like an autosave somewhere. Meralte... Fuck, who's Meralte? I know twins are alive. They swam back home. Was Meralte the one that got eaten by a shark, or the one that swam north? No, he swam north. Sensory is dead. Oracle is dead. Now that. Powell is. Rennick is alive. Powell is dead though. Suliv. Oh, Suliv was the little shit that left. So Suliv is alive and Renray is dead. There's more? Oh boy, who is Desh going into danger? Okay. Mostly seem in tune. Ambrosia. Oh, a jewel amulet. Glass bow and a short sword and oh, a mace. A sea robe. What's a sea robe? When was the last autosave? Oh my, that was back in Shadenhall. I would like to redo the answers though, because I want to make sure these are done truthfully. So, make the save there. And go back. And hopefully, we can teleport around. Whatever. Alright, so. I'm going to keep this alive. And I'm going to pop into Merndon. I'm going to put down third mark? Third mark at Aurelius' position. Then I have a first mark at Ocean Moth and the teleport spell into Merndon. A fourth mark to the Isles.
Good day.
Alright, can't ask you.
Take care.
It's fine, I'm going to put this in slot 4. First recall.
It's my...
You are. Alright, so Rennick dead, Deshri into danger. Actually, Mage's Guild, because Mage's Guild puts us out on the street. Actually, maybe some of it's I did actually have more stuff load in the reflections, like misc items. So that could actually be partially why things are stuttering more. Then we do a mark, and third mark, because second mark is home, and fourth mark is the Isles. No, right, that's already 4. Three, then we go talk to Atize.
I'm honored.
Neshri.
Bye.
Alright, Suluv, I think we ask Aurelius, who is at the third mark. Alright, Suluv is alive. We go first recall.
A pleasure to...
Vendry. Alright, so Vendry is dead. And was that everything? It might give me a double update. This did. Okay. Fourth recall. That was way faster with teleports. Way faster. And then we put runner 2 back in. What's a runner 4? Runner 4 for slot 4. Yeah, I think I'll reduce the amount of stuff that gets reflected in water. That should hopefully improve performance. I wonder how hard one skill is. Almost 175. No, if I'm going to train it on like a per hit basis, it's probably better if I turn the difficulty back down to normal. Because it is based on damage dealt.
Oh!
Alright, and I only have like 14 seconds. 10 seconds to go on Detect Life, so we'll just sit here. Alright, so now we need to review our quest journal to actually make sure everything's right. Alright, so the twins are fine. Tize is fine. Ralius is fine. Moralte is alive. Orgel's dead. Paulos is dead. So I'm just going to keep track of who's alive, because that's more than who's dead. So Moralte is alive. Apparently just Moralte is alive so far. Deshri is in danger, but maybe alive. And Suliv is alive, so Suliv and Moralte are alive. Okay, so Suliv and Moralte are alive, and just about everybody else is dead. Okay, twins are alive. Moralte is alive. These aren't names I bothered to memorize, so they are dead. Palos is dead, and Rennick is dead. Suliv is alive, and Rendre is dead. Desher is seen going into danger. Alright, and now that should be everything. It doesn't tell me what my responses are, but oh well. You got some stuff. The sea robe, though, and the jeweled amulet may be of importance. Sea robe, probably just some enchantment for us, which would be neat. The jeweled amulet. Just break down all the glass. Which puts us a fair deal into XP wise. We're now like 202 short of level up. Oh, crime handler had the error. Okay, one thing I would like to do though is show arrows up. Okay, cool, it's 0. So are the bugs. There was the bow XP handler I'm going to need to rewrite. Heck. There are some controller keybinds I should add for button maps. Anything else? I don't know if eating weapons should actually like restore durability or charge. But it makes sense if it does, because we are devouring the item. We're absorbing it into ourselves, so that makes sense, but... Yeah, eh. Well, I guess we're gonna call it here then. I'll see if the... I'll just do some coding and wander about. See what the heck pops up. See you all tomorrow night. Have a great night, and thank you very much for watching. All three of you who don't seem to be here anymore.